Now, the proposed amendments to the Electoral Act of Kenya have provided yet another flashpoint for the political debate from both sides of the divide. And it is all to do with the big day, that is the 9th of August. Now, as the debate rages on and as we await the outcome of the debate in the House, let's first understand the electoral process on Election Day and then get into what the proposed amendments are seeking to change. Well, first of all, it's that the Election Day is divided into two main processes. That is voting, which usually takes place in a pretty orderly fashion. Polling stations open at 6 a.m. and then close at 5 a.m. Now, this is the second and most important process and often controversial. That is the results management process, which includes vote counting, collation, tallying, and results transmission before the ultimate declaration of the results. Now, an important matter to settle before we move any further is this: which parts of our election process are manual and which are electronic? Well, our actual voting process is manual. We fill out ballot papers by hand, we put them into the ballot box. However, the process of voter identification is electronic using the EVID kits or the electronic voter identification kits. The results transmission itself is what is electronic through the KEEMS kit. So let's now get to the second stage of the election process that we mentioned earlier, and that is the results management aspect. So this process begins after 5 p.m. Once the polling station closes at that hour, it now becomes a counting station. Now, the presiding officer is usually in charge here. So he or she would count and tally the votes together with the deputy presiding officer and the polling clerks. And they always start with the presidential votes. They then enter those results in Form 34A, which is a statutory document that declares the results. Now, following verification of those results in the counting process, the party agents who are present at the polling station then append their signatures to this form together with the presiding officer. So what the officer does is they then take a photo of this form using the KEEMS kit that we talked about earlier, and they then electronically transmit this simultaneously to both the National Tallying Center here in Nairobi and the Constituency Tallying Center. Now, the physical document is then taken to the Constituency Tallying Center, which is headed by the Constituency Returning Officer. That officer receives all the Form 34As from all the polling stations within the constituency and then fills the details of each candidate as per Form 34A to this one, Form 34B. That individual collates and tallies the votes. Now, with the total votes from the constituency, this is once again approved by the party agents and signatures are appended. An image is once again taken of this form, 34B, using the KEEMS kit and once again electronically transmitted to the National Tallying Center. Now, the constituency returning officer will take all those Form 34As they've received from the various polling stations together with this Form 34B that they have filled, and then begins the physical, either long or short journey to the National Tallying Center in Nairobi and delivers them to the chair of the IEBC, who is the National Returning Officer of the presidential vote. So by this time, the chair of the IEBC has already been receiving the images of the Form 34As from all the polling stations around the country, like we said. Now, in 2017, these were slightly over 40,000 polling stations. Now, this year, that number is likely to go up, considering the increase in numbers of voters, so perhaps 50,000 or more, thereabouts. So in 2017, it's important to note this, that they were receiving, here at the National Tallying Center in Nairobi, two types of results. One was the images of the forms, and also they were receiving numerical data as well. In 2017, the National Tallying Center was therefore receiving results in two ways. One was those images via the KEEMS kit, and two, the numerical data, like we've said. They were then using the numerical data to do the calculations of the vote tallies so far, and that is what was being displayed on that large screen at the Bomas of Kenya. Remember that. The numbers on that screen were, as a result, not verified numbers, but rather provisional, and could be subject to change upon the verification exercise that is done by the chairperson of the IEBC. And this, in fact, became a question that came up even during the Supreme Court petition of 2017. And that is what has apparently informed this particular amendment that says that the IEBC, and here it is, let's just pause for a moment and read that. This is Section 39(1)(g) of the Election Act that says the Commission shall, to facilitate public information, establish a mechanism for the live streaming of results as announced at polling stations, and the results so streamed shall be for information purposes only and not for the basis of a declaration by the Commission. Now, this is what the IEBC is proposing, that these amendments be scrapped. So this is what they're seeking to be stricken off the Election Act. They're insisting that the amendment to remove this section is to align with a ruling by Justice Chacha Mwita in 2018. And let's once again take a look at what that said. Chacha Mwita, the justice in 2018, said amendments that were introduced to these sections 31C, 31D, and 39(1)(g, and the entire section 83 have failed the constitutionality test. So what's next? And what lies ahead? Well, it's all in the hands of the members of Parliament, who will ultimately vote on whether to pass this particular amendment into law. Now, should it pass, meaning that we would have no big screen at the Bomas of Kenya showing Kenyans the results as they stream in, then the IEBC has the big task of assuring Kenyans who've been used to this public display that the counting and tallying of votes is being done in a fair and transparent manner. But Parliament can also find other ways to secure the keen interest that Kenyans have in following those results as they come in. Results that are not just provisional, but are verified as well. That's my explainer tonight. Let's